It seems I have underestimated you, third sister. I just love that we get more Vader quotes. More Vader quotes. Now, whenever you buy the Vader little helmet pack, we need like 30 different things instead of, you don't know the power of the dark side. Don't make me destroy you. That's like the same four. They're great, but I love that we have more now.
Love it. What's up, Force family? Welcome back to another exciting, informative, interesting, hopefully fun episode of the Star Wars Guys podcast here live on YouTube. We are your hosts, Mike, and you know him well. That's weird when I do it. Uncle.
I love it. I think it's great when you do it because you know him very well.
I know him very well.
And are we missing anyone?
No.
Okay. Good.
No, we are Sans Nate.
We are. And any of you in the chat
I did watch
who watched last episode, I warned him live on air. Maybe I'm a suspect in this, but Nate is not able to be with us tonight. And last time live on air, I said I was out recently. Uncle had to miss an episode as well, and now Nate. I guess that's just the way of things.
That's the way it goes. I think actually he was mistaken for Obi-Wan. He's back in the back. Third sister has him on the rack.
I like that.
We hear screams of.
He's riding on the back of Freck's tank somewhere. I love that. I know you weren't here last episode,
man,
but Freck.
What perhaps was the greatest moment in recent Star Wars history.
It was. I love. There were so many lines from Freck. I know that has nothing to do with this current episode, but I just loved. She's like, "Oh yeah, we're farmers from Tall. We were going on an adventure and got lost in the field here." And he goes, "Well, that's a weird story. That's a weird story,
man.
I love it.
Can we just do that? We talk about that one again?
Yeah, let's do it.
No,
I love it.
Hey guys in the chat, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, Nate should be here to answer all these.
Oh,
shout out Melly Deli. Hey everyone.
Oh, nice.
Vincent, thanks for coming in. John Thomas, thanks for being here.
I love it.
So glad you guys are with us. Yes, this episode was great.
Yeah.
Loved it. We are fleshing out even more the relationship, Leia and Obi-Wan.
Yes, definitely.
First takes first?
Yeah. Do you want me to start it off?
Yeah, do it.
So much I know because Jedi Fallen Order.
Right.
There was a lot of this that felt very, and I mean this in a positive way, very video game-like.
For sure.
Inquisitorious, we'll get to all the specifics, but
I was looking for the symbol, on the wall.
I know, you're wondering.
Is it there somewhere?
And then there's a tomb.
A tomb?
And you're seeing, and there are some specific, I know Tara Snube was one of the Jedi from the Clone Wars.
Boss. That was from the last.
Yeah, that was from the last. That was on the wall. So it'll be interesting. We'll have to get a freeze frame. I'm sure Star Wars Explained has probably already done this as we speak, as far as breaking down who each of those individuals were.
Wait, what is this Star Wars Explained that you speak of?
Star Wars Explained is a great YouTube channel. Who is almost as big as ours. He's been
doing
But yeah, so overall thoughts. I really like this episode. I wish it was longer.
Yes.
It was a short one.
That was the only disappointing part.
It was a short
pull
one.
Up the thing and go 30. Was it 39? 38?
39, and then I watched it on the second time. I looked, okay, how long is it before you get those 6 minutes end credits? It was 32 minutes. 32. Which, honestly, I think this goes for Kenobi, goes for Boba Fett, goes for Mando. I just prefer longer episodes when we can get them.
Give me more.
When you see it, and I hate that it sometimes affects me before the episode. When you see it and you go, oh no, 30.
Right.
Before I've even seen anything, I go, it's shorter.
I try not to look.
Yeah.
Someone else can start it. But my daughter said, 39 minutes. Oh, what?
Yeah.
I know.
So overall thoughts?
Loved it. And I watched, of course, the chapter 3 without you guys and didn't get to talk to it, but I watched it again today.
Feel free to share any thoughts on that as well.
Oh, man.
That ending, that whole fight.
I have some interesting thoughts about the fire. I've heard he's getting a lot of heat, pun intended, about not crossing the fire.
Don't make me destroy you.
If I could just share this thought with y'all.
I love it.
Sometimes things happen in Star Wars that you can't explain them. The Force, maybe. But so why did Vader not go over the fire? Did you deal with this last week?
I think we started to speculate a little bit, but I don't want to step on your toes at all. What you're saying.
I don't have an answer. I have a tit for tat. Those are good too.
Nice.
Tit for tat.
Yeah.
Go back and watch episode 4. Vader is battling Obi-Wan. Slices at him. Obi-Wan disappears. Luke shoots the controls. the blast doors begin to slowly close, and Vader watches them close and turns around.
And just slowly walks.
Anyone who says, why didn't he go through the fire, I would say, why didn't he freeze the blast doors and go grab Luke by the neck?
Yep. Yeah.
He didn't. Because he didn't.
He could do what he did in that episode of Obi-Wan and snap his neck from far away.
Absolutely.
I'm glad he didn't. We love Luke.
I'm glad he didn't.
But that
there's a couple answers. One, he didn't because it's Star Wars and things have to happen a certain way. Or it could be Vader understands the timing of things. There's a time for things, and he's more measured than he used to. Anakin would have run through the fire.
Yep.
Vader is more measured. He understands this is a marathon. We're not on a sprint here. He can't outrun me. The fear that he's feeling is part of the punishment. All of those things that linger.
I like on that idea, building off of it too, is I can't remember who originally said this. I heard this somewhere just in the last week, and I thought, ooh, that's a good idea too. Is that this there's a lot of revenge stories written out there of different movies of this is the one thing, if I can only get this, it'll solve everything that's going on with me. The big thing they've even shown in the posters and everything, the thing in Obi-Wan's heart, Vader, the thing in Vader's heart, or in some of the posters even his eye, is Obi-Wan. Like he is obsessed with Obi-Wan. He even said in that episode when she's talking about Reva is talking about like he will pay for what the Grand Inquisitor, and like starts to blame it on Obi-Wan. He said the Grand Inquisitor means nothing. Obi-Wan is all that matters. Like he's obsessed with him, and she's like, oh cool, so I guess I'm off the hook.
I guess I'm yeah.
But I heard some people speculate like I think Vader was disappointed by how easily this was going, like, because he also clearly didn't try to kill him right away. He held him up, and then he's like, you will suffer, drags him into the fire,
and then
also then sends him out of the fire.
Yeah.
Like, people forget that. It's not like he was in the middle of burning.
That's right.
And then Tala shows up and shoots and saves him. He then takes him out. He's like, I'm playing with my food here. I'm taking him in, take him out. And then then when the big flames come up and he's kind of looking, part of me does feel like he knows I'm going to see him again.
Mm-hmm.
That hurting, broken down shell of a man is not the Obi-Wan I know.
No.
It's also not going to give me the satisfaction I want from defeating him. Who defeated me? That's easy. Like, that's not going to do anything for me.
That's right.
And so part of me also thinks like we're going to see each other again.
Yeah.
Almost like go get right. Like go heal up, go do your thing. I'm coming for you.
Right.
And then next time you better be ready because I'm not going to take it easy on you again.
If MJ is going to play Kobe and they're going to do it in their prime, he wants to play the full guy.
Yes. Neither of them want to play the 40-year-old version of the other or the injured version. That's not.
They would all want to go back in time and take on the guy in their prime. What's the point?
Otherwise, so that's a
he also wants to make him suffer.
Yes. And I think that's also it too.
The process has begun.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to kill him.
Also, what a great touch of... Did we ever in our mind when we were thinking of what would happen in the show is that Vader would light a giant fire and then take him and throw Obi-Wan into the fire to feel what he felt. It's just awesome.
Beautiful.
So great.
And then they're both in back to tanks and they're...
Yes.
We're back on the last episode.
And now we're finally transitioning into...
Sorry I did that to you.
No, I love the dual back to tanks this time. The parallels between them. And,
it was cool.
And
takes on this one. I loved the... enriching the relationship between Leia and Obi-Wan.
It's getting strong.
And I'm totally comfortable with Luke being over here and them exploring this. And it's explaining a lot to me about future Leia.
Yeah.
About future Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm seeing a trajectory here. Like we talked about Mando, if you listened to the podcast before or watched, we talked about Mando and Grogu. And how there's a pattern there where Mando is out to save Grogu, but the opposite actually
Grogu saves Mando
in so many ways. Mm-hmm. He does it just with the Force a couple times, but
also it's humanity to him. Yeah,
and I really think my daughter said that today. Leia, in small ways, is reminding Obi-Wan who he really is.
Yes,
not just by giving him the opportunity, but by talking about things like courage and.
The
his
Force,
past
what is
it
like? All of
this mother, stuff. And she is bringing Obi-Wan out where Ben is, which is so cool. And
also,
the emotional part, she's bringing out his emotion, which
it adds this
held
whole
in check for so long.
And again, I know some people, and I do understand to a point of people being surprised at maybe how much Leia is in it. I love the decision so much that Leia is the thing that gets Obi-Wan into the fight.
Yeah.
But then also is the one who's cracking his outer shell and getting him. She's the one who's warming his heart, like not just because she's a uppity young child who's running away, doing this stuff, has this playful, but Leia's force ability, and this is something that I think has been explored in some novels and comics as well, has always been. While she later does, they've explained that she also later has some Jedi training with Luke and those types of things.
Yeah.
But she has a way of reading people and reaching them and being able, like, when she looks, and again, one more time going to the previous episode, just because I remember that conversation where she's asking about her mother and asking about, like, it's also very.
You knew her.
The way that she sets up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she can tell what you just said to the stormtroopers is not made up. Like, there was truth there of talking about, her mother. She's not with us anymore. She died many years ago. And then he kind of looks at her and smiles, and he's like, "We all miss her very much." Like, it was too real for her that she knew. Great. She's like, "You really."
After
also,
you really.
The fact that she brings up, I wonder what he looks like sometimes. Her father. Moments before that nightfall, she would actually see her father.
That's
for the first time. Now she wouldn't know that it's him.
No.
But that unstoppable monster that Obi-Wan says to her when she says, "Are you my real father?" He said, "Oh, I wish I was. I wish I was."
Right.
There's just so much there, and that leads into this episode of just this building connection. The way it ends with her grabbing his hand. Mm-hmm. It also adds the layer of Leia adds her.
There's so many things I love.
She adds Leia. It just also adds so much to the sequel trilogy when you find out that Leia and Han named their son Ben.
That's right.
It's not Obi-Wan.
No.
It's not Luke. It's not any of these other. But they name him Ben.
He's becoming Obi-Wan again, but Ben came to save her.
And Ben is the one who she's really got this relationship with.
Right.
She's always calling him Ben. She's.
I have some thoughts about
so many things
her.
There. Yeah.
There's so many things about. Okay, so I think the character. I think maybe in. The sequels we did a little bit of justice, but in the original trilogy, I felt like Leia got the shaft a little bit.
Yeah,
we saw some of her character, and she was really one of the true heroes.
Yeah,
but we didn't get to know a lot about her journey.
A lot of the valid criticisms are her comforting Luke for tragedy when she's experienced worse tragedy.
Just got destroyed,
and now we find out that when Obi-Wan dies, it's her who's actually spent more time with him than Luke has.
Relationship than anyone.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but. Yeah. I do find it. There's a couple things I just loved. We go back to episode 4 when they escape from the Death Star, and Leia says, "What? They're tracking us." That's the only explanation for the ease of our escape.
Yes.
Why would she think they're tracking them?
And Han doubts it.
That's right. Yeah. They're going to discover. Leia's going to discover that they planted a tracker on her in this episode. They're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
Years later, she's with Luke. She's going to go, "I know how this works. This is not new to me. We're being tracked."
The parallels between this episode and New Hope, there were so many of them.
It's so great.
Obi-Wan sneaking around. When they look at when O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube's son, helps them out. What was his name? I wrote it down.
Roken?
Yes. Yeah. When he is helping them and they're looking at the plans, it might as well be a plan of the Death Star. What they're looking at, the hollow. It felt so much of it felt like. Okay, this is the precursor to A New Hope. This is why Obi-Wan knows how to sneak around and get around the mission. This is how Leia knows they're being tracked. And so much of it, I think, just enriches that later story of like, oh, it's not just, this is a science fiction fantasy thing. Like, of course she has, no, she has experience doing this.
Yeah.
Even as a child, and then Obi-Wan, obviously, as a younger man. They know what they're doing. She's been held captive before. By people who work for Vader.
Right.
That's happened to her before, and now she's like, all right, well, we're in this again.
We're doing this.
Who rescued me last time? We need Ben Kenobi.
Yeah. And we've talked that people have talked about. I love her connection with droids.
Yes.
Because she entrusted the fate of the galaxy to an astromech droid.
Yeah.
By putting the plans in the droid.
Yeah.
Trusting
from the start.
It's a very Frodo-like thing. Like, who could you trust to deliver this most important thing? The humble, lowly No one would ever suspect.
No, unsuspecting
droid,
hero. The last
but she has a relationship with droids where she's come to trust them and values them. I think that's fantastic. And then I want to go back and watch episode 4. I realized that she's creating the message in episode 4, and then she takes the card.
Yeah.
And she's creating the message right there. But I submit to you that way back then, when no characters could talk to droids, I submit to you that Leia was talking and understanding R2 in that moment. She wasn't. I think that she's had a connection all along. We didn't notice
I think so.
Never underestimate a droid. That's all the way through. It's in 9.
Yeah, it's a 9, yeah.
So it's just kind of cool to see things come back.
It's just consistent throughout.
Back around. Wipe that smirk off your face, 3PO. I think she's always had an innate understanding more than others. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it goes to her understanding of people. Maybe she can sense that in a droid. I don't know. But
I think you're right, and also sees the value in them where others even Obi-Wan's short with droids.
Right.
Obviously, throughout a lot of the other films, there's the droids can't be in here, can't be in the cantina. Obviously, it's consistent throughout of some people underestimating the droids, but I love that is building. I love those relationships we were talking about. Some other parallels between this and A New Hope, her being tortured again.
Yeah,
that's a whole setup to what later she would face with Tarkin.
You can hear the
droid with the nice syringe.
And that's the same rack that Han was tortured on.
Yeah,
same rack.
That's
that
it.
We saw. And so we kind of know what's coming.
Obviously, we've seen now in a number of movies, but I always love the alarm sound.
Oh, it's
always like woo, woo. It's
the
same thing that they've had on the Death Star.
Absolutely.
They've had in the different bases. I just love it every time that they keep that consistent. Then also just even some more parallels between different characters. The way that Reva, and this is near the end of the episode, the way Reva runs out and she's yelling at Tala, and she yells, "Traitor!" holding her red saber. It's the exact same way of what Kylo does when he's yelling. Well, you also have the trooper who says it to Finn also. But the different people who are yelling "traitor" and it's just consistent also too. I just love how this ties the prequels, it ties A New Hope, and then it also has these things that maybe don't seem as obvious as the connections to A New Hope. Seem very obvious.
They are.
But then you have some of these deep threads. Luke's current state of mind being similar to Obi-Wan's current state of mind being similar to Luke in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And then also just some of the direct shots look similar. I saw some people taking the Vader with the saber out. The way it's held diagonally looks just like the way Rey holds it, looks just like the way Luke holds it.
Yeah.
And it's the same shot that everyone keeps using, the same shot, which Deborah Chow also is just, I think, directing the heck out of this thing. I love it. Do you have any, I wouldn't say concerns, but now that we're 2 episodes left, do you feel like do you feel like, I'm wondering if some of the things that we were hoping that would come in, and again, we always want to manage our expectations, but we were wondering, we had speculated at the beginning, will we get any Palpatine? Will we get any Padme? Will we get any flashbacks? That list is dwindling, I think.
Man. It is.
It is, but we also couldn't predict that majority of the thing would be focused on Leia.
Right.
But of those...
Let me just reiterate. When I was a kid, we had Star Wars. By the way, the Star Wars Guys podcast is named after Star Wars figures.
Yes, our Star Wars guys.
With the Star Wars guys. And I had some of those original Star Wars guys. And I had Leia, but I only had Leia for one reason. Call me a 1980s boy. I don't know.
Get him.
I had Leia to be there so Han could come in and rescue her. That's why Leia was there. I never gave her the credit I think that she was due.
Yeah.
And now I'm loving this. Yeah. I don't want to see. I really don't care if I see the Emperor.
Yeah.
He's got there's a place.
He's his place, but I
feel like that would make everything. It's this intimate story that I'm really enjoying. The connection between the two of them.
Yeah.
That I think explains a whole nother level. That I love that we now have this story where Leia is closer to Ben than Luke ever was.
Yeah. It's very
and it
interesting.
Kind of explain. And Hannah asked me, my daughter asked me today, how far do you think this is going to, how long do you think this relationship continues? And I said, I think it continues on all the way up until she sends the message.
It's interesting.
Off and on over the years.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason why they wouldn't stop. And she knows that Obi-Wan's getting older. Mm-hmm. She knows that he's off on his own, but they're not strangers.
Yeah.
It could be. It's the last time. She didn't speak to him like it was a stranger. She does say in A New Hope, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Your only hope. You served my father in the Clone Wars."
Yeah.
And I have some thoughts about that too. Mm-hmm. But no, to answer your question, no, I'm not. I was thinking, what were my hopes? I don't have anything I'm feeling like, oh man, if they don't do this.
Yeah. Because I think
they're going to miss it. I don't have any of those anymore.
Yeah. And I think what people need to continue, and again, enjoy, speculate. We love speculation. We make predictions as well. I think we always try as best we can to speculate or predict based on, we think this person may show up because of what that could mean for Obi-Wan, the main character. Where, as much as I love Ian McDiarmid and love the Emperor, it may be they could do it in a way where it briefly provides some insight into any struggles that Vader is dealing with right now, but it would really not provide much for Obi-Wan's story as far as Obi-Wan.
It wouldn't.
Leia does.
Oh,
man. The whole development of Obi-Wan coming back into his own, Leia's at the heart of that whole thing. Really, without Leia, I mean, when we saw him, obviously, we saw his interactions when he was on Tatooine this is 10 years of living on Tatooine, and he's with Uncle Owen, and he wants no part of the Jedi. He wants no part of, he does say, like, when the time comes, he must be trained, but he's just like, he's kind of over this mission.
Right.
He feels like it's pointless. He's working at the meat shop, and
just trying to
it feels invisible. Like it really feels like talking about losing the will to live. He's like, what is this all for?
Right.
Especially because now the person I'm trying to protect, his uncle doesn't even want me anywhere around him. So now it's like my one mission is now serving no purpose. And then Leia needs help. Mm-hmm. And Bail is like, Obi-Wan, you're the only one who can do this. And of course he resists at first. Then a Jedi is hung up in the streets, and then there's more guilt and there's weight on him. Okay, I've got to get back into this. But it's not been just this simple. I think that if it was a simple search, rescue, get her back, mm-hmm. He goes, great. He wipes his hands clean of it, and he said, and now I'm back. I've learned nothing. I saved her. I checked that box.
Yep.
But the additional time he spent with her is just the way she has with people, like you were talking about.
Oh, man.
She just has a way with people where the way she breaks down Han.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about people who are rough on the outside or don't look like they would ever open up. Right. Han is, again, he's maybe always been this guy, but the way that we are able as an audience, you watch A New Hope, and especially early on, you're like, this guy has snark and some charm. He's pretty mean.
He is. Yeah.
By the end of, even though he still has the same sarcasm, the same, when he gets to Return of the Jedi, I don't look at Han as mean at all. No. Like, just because I've seen the other side. I've seen
what
he does. I've seen even the, like, I love you, I know, those types of things. You're like, it's so endearing.
But
where if he did it in episode 4 before you knew it, you're like, what a cocky jerk. Like, but again, that's just the exposure to Leia. Yeah. And I just love how that's added to Obi-Wan coming back into his own.
Absolutely. Chat is lighting up here, guys. I'm sorry I'm not able to follow this. Nate is our
and I have just notes that I want to talk about on my phone, so I'm not even looking at the chat. Sorry, Chad.
Some of these. That's okay. Yeah. Served my father in Clone Wars, but also served Bail Organa. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. I think maybe my theory on that, because there's been I've seen some talk about why would Leia not refer to him as, you saved me when I was a child.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together.
Again.
Yeah.
She refers to him, Obi-Wan, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Two possible reasons. One, they didn't think of that at the time.
Yeah.
But two, isn't it possible that she sees him as two different people? We're gonna see Ben. Ben is morphing into something else. Mm-hmm. Because who was it? Tala says that's not the Obi-Wan that I know.
No, and it is interesting because we'll probably, after the show ends, just to build on this thought, I almost want to go back and track and watch and see not just if Leia ever refers to him as Obi-Wan, but if anyone calls him Obi-Wan in front of her.
Yeah.
The reason why is clear because when she sees, it's interesting the way that she does.
In this episode, they did.
Even in A New Hope, she does have two different reactions where she talks about, just Obi-Wan Kenobi, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, you served my father in the Clone Wars, all of that. When Luke comes and rescues her, you're a little short for a stormtrooper. Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue. I have your R2 unit. I'm here with Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi! And then she hops up, and she's so excited and runs.
Yep.
And even though they have the same last names, even Luke's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if she means Ben Kenobi.
Right. He's a wizard?
It is interesting the way they're kind of... Yeah.
They are. Well, I was listening for that. In this episode, Reva says, Obi-Wan Kenobi is not coming to save you. Directly to her. And she doesn't...
She didn't go, who's that?
Right.
I only know Ben. Yeah.
Because I thought about that. It's like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think she knows they're the same.
Yeah.
But even so, Ben is not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No.
Because remember, Star Wars, we're always dealing with these two sides of a person's personality. We do it with Rey. We do it with light side, dark side.
Anakin and Vader. You've got Kylo and Ben.
It's all through there. We got good Han, bad Han. So I think this dual personality thing is playing itself out in Kenobi now. And we're seeing Ben Kenobi as the failed, hopeless shell of this character, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. So when Leia sends the message, she's not sending the message to the broken, weak, fearful,
to the general in the Clone
Wars, old man Ben Kenobi that she met. Yeah. She's sending it to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who she sees who he becomes through the. Well, I think he's gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
By the time we finish, so it could be the easiest answer is they didn't know this was gonna happen.
It's the reason Luke and Leia kissed. They didn't know.
But it also does make sense that she would be reaching out to the Clone Wars hero, and it's a reminder of who she's reminding him of who he is. She doesn't say, Ben, we need you. She calls back to all of those memories. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are the Jedi that we need. Yeah. She doesn't say, Ben, we need you. She needs Obi-Wan, right?
Yeah. I think that there is, as fans, we kind of have to check ourselves if we really want to overly be critical and look at each of the different inconsistencies. There are inconsistencies between a movie filmed in 1976 that came out in 77 and a show that has come out on Disney Plus in 2022.
Right.
And throughout that there are, if you want to go down that rabbit hole and question every single line, there's stuff there that is enriching. I think this show has done a lot to enrich a lot of the former things that we knew.
Right.
It's built up a lot of context and built, like we were just talking about Leia. Now when I look at her around Obi-Wan, I think, oh gosh, they had all this relationship that I had no idea about. When we look at the Tuskens in A New Hope, now I think, even though it's not the same Tusken tribe, now I know more about the Tuskens from Book of Boba Fett. Like I think about them differently. Even when they're shooting at Anakin's pod racer.
Yeah.
But if you start just focusing on, this makes no sense. They broke canon. If Luke and Leia are brother and sister, why would they kiss? George didn't have that written yet. That's just kind of the simple explanation for that. And there are things throughout. If there are differences in when movies were written, when they're made, and then they're trying your best to fill in the backstory and keep it as consistent at the core of what. And I heard Deborah Chow recently say this. There are some things where there's gray area, and we do our best to. And she was talking about the way they're filming this and writing the show. We do our best to fill in some context and build while maintaining what we believe is still at the heart of what George was getting at.
Yeah,
not change, not have you look at something and think, oh, this character actually means something completely different.
Right.
It's just, when this character says this, it's actually deeper than I thought.
There's an extra weight we didn't know about. Yeah.
We didn't know about it because if you look at a ship, we look at the way the Death Star blows up, or we look at the way the Death Star blows up, and because of the special effects of 1977, and then we see the way Starkiller Base blows up. Right. Like, this one just turns into a bunch of sparkles. What happened with that? That's inconsistent. Well, no, the effects are different.
Yeah, they do things differently.
Speaking of effects, I wonder if this is intentional or not. I saw some people point this out, and I noticed it on viewing as well. It could be just because it is, even though it's an expensive show, it is a television show versus a $220 million blockbuster movie.
By the way, do you know the budget for this anyway? I don't know.
Don't know.
Okay, we can look it up.
The T-47s. When they're flying in, I thought it was I thought it was really cool because I'm like, those are the air speeders turned snow speeders. Right. They're used on Hoth. Exactly. It's the same thing.
pacing.
I wondered if they did this intentional or if it's just part of being on television. I did think on some of the effects looked a little wonky on some of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was watching, I thought that looks a little wonky. It looks exactly like it flew on Hoth.
Yes.
It intentionally
not
perfect.
They had to do it on
do
purpose.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially I think there was one shot, and I saw other people saying this as well, where it goes into the hangar.
Yeah.
Where it's almost intentionally kind of zoomy and looks like something that was filmed a while ago.
They had to do it on purpose.
And it looks like they totally tried to get the same.
Too good at this level.
Because some of the effects obviously look so mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an oversight of it's good enough. It looks like they intentionally made that because whether it was intentional or not, when I watched it, it made me immediately think of Hoth.
Right.
And that's what it's supposed to do, I think. And it also made me think of the exact shot where it's flying towards you and you're like, oh, that looks almost a little green screeny or a little something, a little effect-wise. It looks like not perfect, but exactly how I remember it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think there's some truth to that. Could you imagine a non-stop motion Tauntaun?
Oh, yeah.
It'd feel weird.
Yeah.
Like the digital banthas felt weird.
Yeah.
That's why they felt weird, because we're like, that's not how they move.
Uh-huh.
They're elephants dressed up in
exactly.
They move like that or whatever they were.
Yeah.
So I am gonna have to go watch it again. But
yeah.
I would guess I didn't notice it.
It's that scene at the end where she runs out, she yells traitor,
right at the
and
end, when
they come out
into the ship.
And it's when they fly first towards them, going boop 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 when they're shooting, and then it kind of zooms around fast and then goes up into the ship. And when it zooms at the camera and veers off, I thought I immediately noticed that the effect looked different than some of the other stuff. And at first I thought, man, is that not fully, or does that look not as crisp? And then immediately though, but it didn't even take a full second. I thought it looks exactly the way it was shot.
They probably did it
in Empire. And I was waiting for some harpoon tow cables to come around and
just hang on.
But that's something that I think is interesting. Upon rewatch, I think you'll notice even too.
I'm gonna go watch it again.
Looks just the way it was filmed.
Yeah.
We'll have to pull it up right when we're done here.
We'll definitely do that.
That's interesting. I also just love visually the look of those ships. I thought those are. I always like the design on those look great.
Fantastic. I love the stormtroopers that are all filthy and dirty. It's just so
love
great.
It.
We're just moving in the direction of that Mandoverse. It's starting to feel the dusty troopers in there and out of work, and it's
the previous episode with the workaday troopers. They're just they finish they're clocking out. They get on. All right, Freck, how's it going? And they hop on there. And,
so interesting where they're out there in the dust. Also, when this was in the last episode, when Ben tried to turn off the
yes.
gate.
Yeah.
Is that the same handle that was on the Death Star?
It certainly looked like the same shape. It looked like the same thing. Yeah. Because I thought that too. Immediately I thought, oh, that's exact. It looked. Yeah. I think it was definitely supposed to, whether it's the same or not, it's supposed to resemble it for sure. One of the big things we're talking about character development and in Obi-Wan coming into his own. I was surprised that he wasn't in the back to tank very long.
No.
Even Tal was like, "You got to get back here and heal."
Right.
He's like, "No, we got to find Leia. We got to." Actually, that even kind of reminded me of something else. Made me think a little bit of Finn of where's Rey, and they immediately
as soon as he comes up,
he's dripping with water and he's got to go find her. But I love that he was healing and getting stronger throughout this. We talk about him having an eventual rematch against Vader when he's got that hallway scene and he pulls out the lightsaber. And he's deflecting the blasters now.
That's right.
And then he's missing a few at first, and then he's, boom, direct connection right back at someone here.
Right.
And then the dark shot where he's taking them out in the dark, where the lightsaber turns off, and he's gone.
Right.
And it turns on, and he's slicing, and he's off.
Which we saw Ahsoka do in Mando.
It was awesome.
Love that.
It was awesome. Sorry, you said you were building on something.
Obi-Wan, don't you think this? I mean, a lot of guys you don't know this. Mike is a basketball trainer. Nate is too, actually. But... Yeah. Don't you see this in athletes where they can still have all their skills and everything can be honed, but if they lose confidence, they're not the same player.
Confidence is so much of the battle.
They do things that they don't do things that they should do.
Yep.
And the things that they do, they don't execute as well just because they don't feel like they should do it.
Yep. And the fear of failure.
Yeah. I think Obi-Wan is more a product in this. Ben is more a product of confidence than it is lack of ability. Granted, he hasn't been doing anything for 10 years, but we can already see things are coming back.
He didn't believe in himself anymore.
It's fear. Fear is driving him, and he's learning to not be afraid from a little, I don't know, she's not. I guess she's supposed to be 10, but I think she feels like she's about 8 or something.
Yeah, she's
he's learning
small.
to not be afraid. Leia is teaching him to not be afraid because she's not afraid of anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool to see. And that's the thing he needs most, to not be afraid. Stop being afraid.
In the earlier scene in this episode, when he's sitting there on the ship and he's just practicing the Force, he's sliding the thing and moving, and he's talking with Leia, and she's talking about the Force and certain things. And he has a quote that said, you can tell he's still broken up by stuff. And there's one quote I wrote down too, is some things can't be forgotten. And it's him still holding on to.
That's right.
He's coming into his own a little bit more, but he's got this thing that's still eating at him, because how do you forget what?
That's right.
Now that he's actually seen him, that's a whole different thing too. When he's actually seen the horror of what Anakin has become, not just that he feels like he failed him as a master to an apprentice, but now the fall of the galaxy because of him, and now he's walking around as a Frankenstein's monster. Who's pure evil right now.
Yeah.
Literally snapping kids' necks, dragging women and children on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this last episode. He felt like it was Halloween. He was Michael Myers walking just slow. He'll catch you even though he's walking. Like that's the classic Michael Myers.
That's
like
right.
You can sprint, but he's just gonna walk and he's gonna get you because he's not afraid of anything.
That's right.
And then of course you think you've outrun him, you turn, and then he's right there.
Yeah.
That's again previous episode, but I love it.
No, that made me think of two things. I think they're using phrases as foreshadowing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that phrase, some things can't be
forgotten. Yeah.
That could be used in favor of his abilities as well.
Yes.
All the good things are still in there.
Still in there.
If you think they shouldn't be forgotten either.
That could also give him some of that hope
that
he thinks about there maybe eventually being good in Anakin.
Yes.
Some things can't. This is still in there. There's some good in you. Padme said this.
No one's ever really gone. Luke says it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all foreshadowing for what's going on.
Yeah.
This is like in there. Mm-hmm. And then also they do the same thing when they talk about actions. Tala says, actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then right after that, we see, it's right after that we go outside and we see Vader coming down the street.
Yep.
I don't know why I didn't think of this at the beginning. It totally makes sense. It was dumb, I guess. He's not looking for Obi-Wan. He's just trying to draw him out.
Yeah, he's just bringing. He just knows.
So
the Jedi code is like an itch.
They're compassionately betrayal. So, so Vader's not he doesn't say a word. His actions are telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Obi-Wan doesn't say a word either. His inaction is telling the story. Mm-hmm. He's letting those things happen
and he keeps
without coming out. Just letting them happen until finally he says, "I can't do this anymore. You go, and I'll go out."
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. I could see that. Some things can't be forgotten. I could see that coming back around again.
Mm-hmm. I also love this is turning into a combo episode, but I love it because they do play into one another.
The last one. Sorry about that.
But in the tunnel when Tala's leading Leia out, Leia saves Obi-Wan. She's not the one who physically does it. She keeps telling Tala,
right.
you have to go back and help him. He's not going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And he was this close to dying. He would have been killed if she comes and she steps up. But that's because Leia obviously went there.
Not giving up on anybody.
Yeah.
Love the swimming under the water.
Yes.
We're back to
breathing. Yes, definitely. I wanted to see a little Gungan or something down there.
No.
Or a bigger fish. There's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish.
I love it.
Awesome. Snapping the neck of the trooper, throwing him in the water.
Yes. Oh, so good.
And as we see his abilities begin to rise and more troopers coming out, there's something about classic stormtroopers with the blasters. It's like Imperial uniforms and the
I was going to say that too.
Comlink.
The comlink's the same.
It just feels, and it's sitting on the deck just like 3PO. 3PO.
Yeah.
It's the same.
They're
it's
dying
talking. No. Shut them all down. It just felt so
good.
Comfortable. Felt just like it was.
I love it. So I wrote down some. I think this would be interesting, speculating where some stuff could go. Well, also, I loved talking about Roken. talking about his backstory a little bit. When we saw him, I was like, "Is he a Jedi?" His wife was a Jedi.
Married to,
and
who was in hiding. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I like that he knew who Obi-Wan was as far as he was talking to him in general.
But I didn't notice Obi-Wan's expression when he said "general." Did that stick him?
I didn't see it
I have
at
to
all
go back
either.
and look at it again.
I need to relook and see if he's like, it's not me anymore.
No,
don't like it. So I wrote down some interesting questions that I think. Not that this is not a checklist of like this better happen or this better be answered, but things that I think they've clearly set up. Yeah, that I wonder. The fate of Reva.
Yeah,
she's not in Rebels.
It feels like it's she's short-lived.
It feels like
based
it,
on
right?
what we know is coming.
Because at least 4 episodes in now, it doesn't feel to me like a turn is coming.
No.
Right? I thought that maybe after episode 3, when she's looking at the Jedi marking and she's getting angry, maybe there's something that happens.
Yeah.
This one, she goes again.
Right.
Kind of digs her heels in, and it feels like it's a play for power. It is interesting still to kind of figure out what her ultimate goal is. Is it really to be just Grand Inquisitor?
She's got something against Obi-Wan individually, or the Jedi.
Will they confirm her backstory,
right?
Or is it kind of just for us to know based on our based on the opening scene of the younglings training? Are we supposed to infer and just guess like, we think one of them is her? Or will that be confirmed on here, like that's part of her hatred towards Obi-Wan is maybe feeling left behind or any of those things?
I have a prediction.
Let's hear it.
Obi-Wan
a Kenobi can it be? No, I don't.
Obi-Wan is going to kill Reva in a duel.
I like that.
And in that,
she'll force him to, like he'll
in that moment she'll explain that he had a hand in taking her from her parents, and she never saw her mother again, and she never saw her father again.
I like that.
Forcibly made me go become a Jedi. I never wanted that, and I didn't know how to get out. The only way I could get out was when I saw.
So when I saw a way out, an option.
Anakin came in.
Yeah.
Said, "Anyone want to get out of here?"
I like that.
She saw power. She saw Anakin, and she always resented the Jedi, and specifically Obi-Wan, because he had a hand in taking her from her family.
Ooh.
She was a child, and he finds that out as she's dying.
I like that a lot.
I don't know.
I like that.
That's kind of a stretch.
No, but it's I think that
maybe killing her might not be a stretch.
I feel like killing her feels like that's coming.
Because after this, Vader's she's still gonna be going. She's still gonna be involved in this.
Yeah,
she's proven.
There's nothing that's. I mean, she was. She
quoted Vader's words back to him.
Yes, she
Nothing
did.
Matters but
yes, she did. She reminded him. Remember, that's all. That's it.
Yep.
Also, how about him coming in angry at the end, yelling Vader like the fastest we've ever seen him march, possibly coming down and just yelling at her and force choking, and then she talks about she's tracking them, and it appears I've underestimated you, third sister. Yeah. So some other questions. Still no confirmation either way of Grand Inquisitor, dead or alive.
Coming back in this, yeah.
Because
we know he
is in Rebels, which is after this, but we haven't. Maybe there'll be a shot or something like that of him in a bacta tank, or him going like, "Ow, that hurt," and he's just fine.
Quick commercial, by the way. Next Star Wars Day, Mountain Dew. I recommend you come out with Sith Start. That would be fantastic. In Sith Red.
I think that would
be
a
easy.
great
It's
idea.
4 letters. Just change the SITH instead of KIKCK.
We'll drink it. We'll drink it for our review of the Acolyte.
Sith Start Red. That'll be awesome.
For the Acolyte each week, we'll have a Sith.
Sith Start.
That'd be pretty good. I like that.
Sith roast.
A couple of things I had written down too was, do we still feel like we're gonna get a Master Qui-Gon?
I feel like he's
done it multiple times now. A few
Obi-Wan
episodes.
is getting stronger, which gives you a sense that maybe
he's starting to believe a little bit more. It feels like that's coming.
Yeah.
There's only 2 episodes left, but it feels like that is.
We've heard memories of voices. We just didn't hear voices.
Yeah. The fact that I know he at least did in episode 3 too.
He did.
Master Qui-Gon knew that because then he says he's coming. And,
that's right. He's coming.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for that. I just can't wait to see here.
We haven't had any spinning sabers yet. I don't know if that's
no spinning,
happen.
no helicopter sabers. Oh, we saw the spinning just.
We did see that.
Just to.
We did see him go like this and fly away, Mary Poppins style. Haven't seen that.
Yes, we haven't seen that.
I'm not sure we will.
I want to see the heels go out, and he's just He's got his bag.
The wind has changed. It's all happened before.
It's a spoonful. The dark side makes the medicine.
Oh! Speaking of that, a couple of the greatest composers 20th century, the Sherman Brothers for Disney, and John Williams. I made a prediction about the John Williams about the Obi-Wan theme. Yeah, I said it would include major thirds.
Yes, you did.
It doesn't, which makes sense. It does include. It's a very close variation. If you go back and listen to the original Force theme, we know that was supposed to be Obi-Wan's theme.
Yes.
Obi-Wan's theme is a very close variation of the Force theme.
It is.
Except
it's very similar.
It starts with a minor third, which is that dun, 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 instead of dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
So that instead of going a perfect fourth, which is what we do in the Force theme, we have a minor third. Perfect fourth is most commonly connected to the wedding march. This is all we're geeking out on.
I love it.
The wedding march. It's got a very hopeful.
Is that different from the Imperial March? Just for those of us listening at home.
The Imperial March is also minor thirds. Dun, 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 dun.
That's not what you get married to?
That's not what you get married to. You could. But that bum ba bum ba 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 ba, and then there's minor in there, but bum ba 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 ba. This starts with a minor third at the beginning, and then we end with echoes of the Force theme, which means we're starting in a place of darkness and we're moving to a place of hope. And it's all in that 8 or 9 note theme.
Which, what was the...
love it. I'm like,
what was the quote that kind of came out ahead of time? Was like
what
that.
Was it?
When they were talking about Obi-Wan's theme, about it possibly like this... heavy while also hopeful and like hitting all the things you're just talking about.
It's in there.
As far as it feels like someone is something through it,
hopeful.
And it ends hopeful, even in the theme.
Right. And the Force theme even has there's minor intervals that happen as it moves up. Da, 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 da. So there's a minor motif to that.
Yeah.
But the middle part has a real positive, it has a hopeful sound to it. Obi-Wan starts in that minor sound and then ends in a more today I noticed it for the first time. I was like, oh, that's so great. And it fits where we are.
I love that it also already feels like classic Star Wars because it is Williams, but it's like you were saying, though, it plays on some of those similar themes, but it makes it new.
Right.
And when I hear it, too, I don't think like, oh, that's that new music. It's like it blends in a good way. It feels like I'm just watching some regular Star Wars stuff.
That's right. And when they throw in stuff of original theme, I'm like, oh, man, I feel that piece there. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Love it. I can't wait to see where we go. We're gonna. My daughter said, "How long is this gonna go on with Leia?" What's interesting about this, if I'm not mistaken, we're pretty much real time, aren't we?
As far as
the show, do we have lapses in days?
No,
or are we pretty much like we start where we left off, and it's they met, and I mean we the first episode we did because he had days where things would occur.
Yeah.
But once the mission with Leia started,
seems like since the mission has happened, it's been pretty.
We're tracking where they get her at night. She comes home back to tank.
She's only on Daiyu that one night when she's there. They get her. They go.
When they leave.
They go on the freighter.
There's some time in the back to tank. But that echoes 4 because episode 4 plays almost in real time.
Yeah, it does.
Until we get to the battle of Yavin.
This already has more locations than episode 4.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
and they're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
But I found that interesting, and that gave me the feeling of that we're moving through this linearly in real time. It felt like real time. This episode was. It kind of moved through.
It definitely did.
It's also one of the things we talked about. I don't know if you guys talked about this last week, but I think we maybe talked about this. That Mando is more like on the rails.
Yeah,
tracking, and this feels cinematic because we're moving between
definitely
events.
That's what we were saying.
We've got a lot of meanwhiles happening.
That Mando has it's very much the point of view character. You're following. Yeah, you're following. They go on their mission, and we love it.
Yeah.
Boba Fett was very much like that, except for the break to the Mando. And then it really was just we switched the main character for 2 episodes, and we follow his entire thing. But it wasn't. We never got, to my knowledge, a bunch of scenes
cut away to some other
Mando going, wonder what's the client up to right now secretly. Right. And it's just like in a secret meeting. Like we'd get some of the client, but it's a quick like Mando walked out of frame, client makes a call while he's still part of that scene, and then it cuts away.
For the most part, it's
for the most part. Right. Yeah, it's not a ton of Mando goes off on something, and then we cut over to
Mustafar.
It doesn't have this big breakaway. We didn't like the shots we're getting where you get just the Vader and Reva stuff, or you get all the Inquisitors, the Inquisitorius. Which, by the way, I was telling Nate this last episode because I saw someone point it out. I think it was on Twitter, but I noticed it again this episode. In the background, in that main chamber room, in the Inquisitorius, in the background on the shelves, there are 2 youngling helmets and like 30 lightsabers just laying there.
Wow.
I wonder if any of those helmets used to belong to any of them, or if those are just trophies.
Trophies, like we found. Obi-Wan discovered
now we found there's a tomb,
trophy room in there of who they've.
It was interesting. I kept wondering, like, don't show Quinlan Voss.
No, I know.
Like,
I thought
we want to be alive.
I know.
Yeah. Cal Kestis is dead.
Like, what?
Oh, what? So much for this new game coming out. Survivor. More like Tomb Raider.
Forget it. He's
Get him out
dead.
of there. Yeah.
That was interesting, though.
Yeah.
And the younglings that were there.
Do we think...
Was that Vader's?
In which part?
Was
that
or
is
that just,
youngling?
are there hallways and hallways of these? Because there would be more than those.
That's a good question.
He was just walking down one of the hallways.
He is walking down the hallway.
Man.
Yeah. How many of those are there? Yeah.
We talk about fear keeping people in line. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Imagine you're a stormtrooper.
Or Freck, nothing wrong with a little order, am I right? Nice to meet like-minded folk.
Imagine you're a stormtrooper and you walk those hallways. Are you ever going to cross any of these people?
Come on. Yeah. There's no chance.
No way. You're like these are all Jedi.
No.
I mean, what would I do?
It's like the stormtroopers in 7 coming around the corner and Kylo's throwing the temper tantrum and they back out.
Exactly.
It's a funny bit, but it's also like, we may be on the same side. We're not messing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great reminder. I love how when Vader, who's working closely, Reva's working and reporting directly to Vader on a lot of this stuff, and every single meeting ends with him threatening her.
Mm-hmm.
And then this time it literally ends with, I told you what happened. And he chokes her and is about to kill her. And then she's like, attract him. And then, and she's still used to him. But in the previous episode, he said, hope for your sake you're right. You will not live to regret it. So I love that the threat of Vader is more than just to the Jedi or the Republic or anyone who's neutral. He's threatening to. We saw what happens to any of the Imperial officers in the original trilogy. They're dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
I do love. We did predict, and I think it's been pretty
Mm-hmm.
accurate. We did predict ahead of time. I think that if we go back on the show,
we did.
That we
is it something that happened?
Stuff that happened.
Yeah, we predicted.
Yeah, we did pretty accurately. We said that we did not think. We thought that Vader would be a big part of the show, but this is not even though it's promoted a lot of the Obi-Wan and Hayden have been doing a lot of stuff. We did say this is Obi-Wan's show.
Obi-Wan's show.
We didn't expect equal screen time between. I think they've done a good job.
Hayden and Vader will be there to push Obi-Wan forward.
I think they did a lot of good the first couple episodes of us knowing Vader's out there, but they haven't really shown him yet. And then the tease. Then we get the breathing. Then we get him actually coming into the 3rd episode and seeing him in the street and full on, doing his thing. And then this one, we get kind of the threat of him still in the background a little bit more. Yeah. But then we know he's in the last 2 episodes. There's going to be a confrontation between him and Obi-Wan. I think that's going to be.
There are going to be things now.
Cool.
Is it rumored that we have season 2, or is it something?
I don't think it's. I saw people
from reputable sources, but we don't.
Yeah, there have been reputable sources who have said
Nate
that.
Was one of those reputable sources.
He was. Yeah. Nate was. And Nate asked me actually about the source. Making Star Wars is the who did it, who published a story about it. I didn't read the full thing because sometimes there's spoilers. I didn't really want to read a lot about it, but they have been right on a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they got that info from. These guys get a lot of leaks and stuff like that, but there's nothing official from Lucasfilm or Disney that has said for sure a second one's coming. So yeah, I think that would also change people's thoughts. Any of the people who are critical maybe of some of the episodes, or they feel like, oh, I thought this would be going this direction.
Yeah.
Knowing there's a longer story to tell.
Yep.
I think that sometimes with the 6 episodes, while I think sometimes it plays great, I think it's going great for Obi-Wan. I think that when we were watching Boba Fett, and I really liked Boba Fett.
Yeah.
We kept saying by the time it got to the end, it kind of felt like, they needed like a couple more episodes of like he finally got to
He's got all the stuff now. Now he doesn't do anything.
Now we're Right. It felt like if this was 10 episodes instead of 7, this would be perfect.
Yep.
And that some of the critiques just felt like, at the end it felt a little rushed, or that it was working towards a goal, and then once we get there, kind of move on from it.
Do it. Yeah.
But I like the pacing of this show. It does feel cinematic. It feels different than Boba Fett. It feels different than Mando, even though I love both of those shows. This is a different feel.
Right.
But I do wonder. I wonder with this last question here, as far as what we think. Do we think we're going to get some flashbacks? I thought when we were doing Back to Tank here, we might get some.
I think we will.
And there's only 2 episodes left. I think we will.
I think we need to. There are things that are unresolved that Obi needs to resolve in his mind.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to, if this is the end.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan has to get to the point, because by the time we get to episode 4, Obi-Wan has resolved that Vader did this, not him.
Yeah.
I didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to fight him. I didn't.
Yeah, in A New Hope, he's not talking to Luke with even though he might have some background of this is what happened. He's not like, this is on me. I've got to go solve this.
That's right.
He realized, yes, the mistakes may have been made. You also make a choice, and he's dug in. Like
he didn't want to.
He didn't want to do it. No.
And he's in. What's he gonna let him go? You can't. Obi-Wan had to, and he was. You're my brother. He did not want to do this. So I think at some point he's gonna. I would hope that he would get to the point where he would allow Anakin to own his part of it. It's not all Obi-Wan. Didn't cause all of this. Obi-Wan didn't turn to the dark side. Obi-Wan didn't kill younglings. Obi-Wan didn't.
No, in fact, he was his closest friend throughout all of this.
That's right. So
if anything, we've said before, it's Mace's fault.
It's Mace, the whole thing. That's what they'll come together on. They'll agree, like Maul and Obi-Wan both hate the Emperor.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Vader are both going to come together and hate Mace. That's what's going to happen.
It's interesting. It is interesting, the parallel, though, you said there of the Obi-Wan Maul fight does feel similar to the New Hope Vader Obi-Wan of doesn't feel like it's a vicious.
No.
Doesn't feel like they're talking trash to each other, except your power's a weak old man. He's saying some stuff like that.
Right.
But it feels like this is inevitable. Oh, I mean, even when Obi-Wan, talking about Rebels, Obi-Wan and Maul, they're talking. It's been this long journey. He's finally there. Maul's been filled with rage to get there, but when it's all over, it's all like he also like there's this gentleness
sense
to
of relief.
even between it really is. It's like his tormented life is over.
Yeah.
But the whole thing between Vader and I'm still so interested in how this final confrontation ends in a way that at least the way I've always read A New Hope, Star Wars. I've never felt watching A New Hope, and maybe this will change the way I feel about it, but I've never felt that when Vader sees Obi-Wan and they fight on the Death Star.
Yep.
That he's like, finally, I've been searching for you all this time. It didn't feel like, you're right here, I finally got you.
No.
It was, because he even says, I feel something I haven't felt since. But it's not like, it's the thing we've been searching for.
That's
it doesn't feel like he's been looking for Obi-Wan anymore.
No.
And Obi-Wan, when he shows up, doesn't feel like, I've also been coming after you to finally finish this. It was more like we knew inevitably we were going to meet again.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that's so different than what we have right now at this current timeline in the show.
Relentless.
Is Vader's relentless.
Yeah.
He says the only thing that matters is Obi-Wan. How does this end when we know that both Vader doesn't die, Obi-Wan doesn't die? But for what we think, it seems like they stopped looking for each other. Right. So I wonder
and here's the thing.
What's the writing there? Where's it go?
They have to have a plan because they are not shying away from this Vader going after Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's the main point of the movie or the show. Yeah. So they have to have a plan for how to exit this. It can't just it could just end with he gets away. It could.
Yeah.
And then we're still left with the same feeling. Like, how did they get to that point?
How did they get there to there? Yeah.
It could. They could well do that and not fix that. But it feels like that's a major one. So the flashback question, I feel like it would have to go back to some point. There's a conversation we didn't hear that occurred where Anakin is, I don't know, conflicted, and Obi-Wan goes back to that moment and realizes, okay, okay, there were a lot of things that were leading him on this path that had nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
He went down this. I was not the one that pushed him here. I was the one who confronted him, unfortunately. And it has to free Obi-Wan. I think that would feel like
from a real world,
the flashback would be useful for that.
From an outside of Star Wars like actor perspective, also, there's been some interviews where it would be very interesting. Some of Ewan McGregor's quotes, if there are not any flashbacks. There's one in particular where he's done the same interview a couple times, but he's had similar response in a couple interviews of talking about what it was like working with Hayden again.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when we're on set and we're in our and he's Anakin and I'm Obi-Wan again, looking at each other, it felt like no time had passed. That's interesting, though, if he only sees him as Vader in this,
right?
Because he never saw him as Vader in the entire, other than his name is Vader when he's fighting Anakin on Mustafar.
That's right.
But Obi-Wan's never had, Ewan has never had a single scene with the Darth Vader costume.
Right.
So it would be weird to feel like, it felt like we're just getting back into our same roles when Hayden's playing a different role. Unless what he's talking about is there is a moment or a scene or a flashback when they are playing themselves again.
They play themselves.
They play themselves, and
That's why I think it also
would be fun to. And again, they obviously have the acting chops for it. Especially, it's obviously Hayden's Vader in the suit. Obviously, it sounds like James Earl Jones, and then also Anakin feel like two different characters. But Obi-Wan, I would love to see within this Obi-Wan Kenobi series, within these 6 episodes, a flashback to classic Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, uppity, snark, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Today. Because Ewan can still play that.
Absolutely.
And it would be so good in the same episode.
That'd be great.
To see a flashback.
Yeah.
Him bickering with their playful banter between them.
Yeah.
And
that
went completely the other way.
I hate it when he does
Sorry, Master. I hate it when he does that. The whole thing.
I
would love a little bit of that it also would play on their brotherhood.
And it would not, just so you know, I don't see that as fan service.
No.
I really think the trajectory is Obi-Wan has to forgive himself. He has to forgive himself. The fear has to go away, but he has to forgive himself.
Yeah.
And to go back and visit some moment or he pieces together some things that begins to relieve the feeling that he caused all this, and it could be done in a flashback. I don't know what.
Yeah. The way they even did the intro, or the way they did his, which episode is episode 1 of this? Part 1? When he's having the nightmares and he's has the dreams. It's very interesting the way they shot, or the way they used the clips, because it was all clips of previous films of Phantom Menace through Revenge of the Sith. But it would go happy Jake Lloyd, young pod racing Anakin, to burning, and then happy memory, some smile at Obi-Wan, to tormented,
back
and this,
there.
this. And I feel like, as far as what we've seen, if I'm reading into it, I think storytelling wise, they want us to feel like that's because there is still good in him.
Right.
It's not, and then we will learn whether it's learned in this series or what we obviously know is that Padme is right. There is good in him. It's just not Obi-Wan who can get it out of him.
That's right.
And Obi-Wan eventually will come to terms that that's not him, but there's another. And that Luke, the son, is obviously the one who get it. But it's not false hope that it's there.
No.
It's actually right. It's just the messenger is not the one.
Right.
He's not the right person to get it out.
If I had a way, if it was up to me, and it's not. Which is probably good anyway. I would love to see Vader become more evil and more set in his path of destruction and evil. I would like to see that. We've already seen him take it beyond snapping people's necks and doing things to where he becomes so far gone that Obi-Wan, the miracle of what Luke did is a miracle. It's not just people are turning from the dark side.
No.
It's impossible. It could never.
There's no chance that there's
guy
anything.
is never coming back. So it feels like while Obi-Wan may have hope that it's possible, I would like to see it in this where Vader goes so far that we think there's no way that guy could never. So if you hadn't seen Star Wars, you didn't know anything about Episode 4, and you watch this thing about this guy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, and this Vader who was Anakin. You just watch this. For someone to say, that guy right there turns good, you'd be like, that's stupid.
There's no way.
That'd ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what I want for Vader in this series. That it's so far that we think it have to be a miracle.
Yeah.
And that would make Luke.
It also adds
greater.
to
it would add to it.
It also adds to the much discussed or poked fun at Obi-Wan's the obviously from a certain point of view guy.
Right.
And some people be like, "Oh, that's just Obi-Wan lying," or if we really even get visual more visual evidence on screen of him trying to reach Anakin's not there. This, like you were talking about, Vader goes deeper, darker than we've ever seen. He is, like we talked about, the difference between Kylo and Ben.
Yeah.
And how, while it may be a title or a name or personality, the dark side consumes you.
Right.
And there are some people who are able to fight in the light and it wins out in the end for different circumstances. And there's others who, whenever Palpatine went dark, he never thought about going back.
No.
And it consumed him. I think that it would be interesting because I do think it gives more credibility or just you sympathize with Obi-Wan's portrayal of events a little bit more. Empathize?
Yeah.
Yeah. You relate to his portrayal of events as far as what he tells Luke. Now, obviously, he's not telling Luke the full truth, and that would happen later. But as far as your father, well, it may be very well, it's not even most of his body anymore at this point, too.
No.
Talking about he's more machine. It's not even that he's just the guy in the suit. Whatever's left of his body has been crippled, or has been decrepit, deformed, all of this stuff. But also the soul of the person he knows, to his knowledge, there's none of it left.
It's gone.
He's like, it's a sad comparison, but when you see someone who is of very old age or gets sick and then they become the shell of themselves, it's like they're just clinging on to life. There's things keeping them alive. The person you loved isn't them anymore.
That's right.
I don't know if it's the perfect analogy or not, but you would understand why Obi-Wan would see Vader, especially what he just saw in the streets and what we think we're going to see in the final couple episodes where Anakin's dead. He's not there.
He also couldn't. Luke was not ready to hear that.
No.
I would have been okay if Obi-Wan said, Luke, you weren't ready to hear that yet. I couldn't tell you for that reason. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you your father's
the ultimate
evil, right? It wouldn't be.
You're also in your Jedi training, and you're in no place. If you tried to go confront him, knowing that, you need to run from him right now.
That's right.
Like, later, when you find out in Return of the Jedi, you're ready.
Yeah.
You're ready to do it. Like you said, timing. Talk about Vader's timing, the Jedi timing, Yoda's timing, Obi-Wan's timing. I think Qui-Gon's timing in this. Qui-Gon could easily show up whenever he wanted to help Obi-Wan. Timing's not right. Obi-Wan's, his head's not in it. His connection to the Force is not where it should be. His belief in himself. Qui-Gon showing up and just helping save the day as a Force ghost or helping guide him doesn't teach Obi-Wan when he needs to believe in himself.
Yep.
And then he can be an aid to him, later on, just the way that
when
Luke has to learn first what he's doing, how to properly apply himself, trust the Force, and then Obi-Wan speaks to him and helps him out and gives him the advice.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Think about so moving into my top Jedi, Leia is moving into my top. She's moving up. Because we talk about her ability to read people. I think her courage is unmatched. Think about it. We go back to Rebels.
Yeah.
The presence of Vader, what that does to Ezra, to Kanan.
Oh, yeah.
What it does to Ahsoka, right? What it does to all the Jedi that meet him. It's a cold. What it does to Obi-Wan in this series.
Yeah, it overtakes you.
It's just breathtaking. And the first time we see Leia interact with Vader, she's like, the Imperial Senate was not to stand for this.
Yeah.
She's like, no fear whatsoever. You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor.
This is a consularship. Where's the ambassador?
She's not afraid at all.
No.
There's no, and again, continuity between maybe it's that old. She's supposed to be courageous. She's supposed to be facing, but we're seeing this play out. This courage of hers, as we see other Jedi, powerful people, just not because they're fearful. Just they're overtaken by this wave of fear.
Yeah.
Leia doesn't flinch at this.
She also doesn't flinch at Reva, who's sitting there trying to get the stuff, and she even starts lying. Remember, we're on the same side. And then Reva gets upset at her because you're like, you're using my words that you're throwing it back at me. I'm not falling for that.
That's right. And she's already be able to block with her mind. They can't get in. I think reading people and courage are two of Leia's strongest qualities. And a little shout out to Rian Johnson, who was the first director to show Leia as a powerful Force user.
Yeah.
In The Last Jedi, when she's blown up into space and brings herself back. Those things are always there. Ryan just showed us. So she's I just can't wait to see where we go.
I know. I'm sad we only have 2 episodes left, but I'm also excited that I believe we have now, this episode, finished off the final footage that we've seen from the trailers.
There's nothing,
because there was a couple of Inquisitorious shots where she's walking out with her red lightsaber the TIE fighters. That was this episode.
We saw that. Mm-hmm.
We saw that. So now we have no idea where it's going. There's some things they've set up where it's like, oh, we can piece together. We think that Vader and Obi-Wan will have a confrontation. Maybe we'll get a Qui-Gon appearance or at least a vocal appearance. But what I learned from the show also is I had no idea that Leia was going to be this important, and I love it. It's so good.
I know.
It's the heart of the show.
I love it. It's made all the other stuff even better.
Yeah.
I think she's so awesome.
That's what we talked about last. We talked actually about this. This could be a good way to maybe end it. We talked about this last episode, the one you were out. That even in that episode it's interesting that in an episode that ends with us seeing Vader having his whole interaction, fighting with Obi-Wan, all of that stuff. That maybe even though I loved that I was standing up for the last 20 minutes of it. Man. Ever since Obi-Wan went, I was like, no, he's actually there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sit down. But even upon rewatch, equally as impressive or equally as, some of my favorite parts in equal amount, I would say, I don't know, is the stuff, people think I joke around, but the whole stuff on Freck's truck. Because there's so much gold there of the dialogue of what they're writing between her. How
creative she is, how courageous she is.
Even the funny stuff of when he's talking about Freck's talking about liking the Empire and she's like, oh yes, we love the Empire. Oh, it's nice to meet like-minded folk. Nothing wrong with a little order. Am I right? And,
Am I right?
Yes, we love the Empire. Right, Father? Do you have anything to say, Father? It's
second viewing, I noticed she stumbled. This is my friend Father.
This is my friend Father.
But then the names came out, and she's brilliant.
But all of that stuff, the jokes there, great. But then the depth of he's looking at her and actually thinking of Padme.
Yeah.
And saying sometimes when I look at her, I think of her mother. Not Luma.
Not Luma. The arrogance of the stormtroopers. You could just feel.
Yes.
Where are you going, farmer?
Where are you going? She passed. It's a long story. It's a long trip. They also get off 2 minutes later.
Right,
liars.
Right. Exactly.
I just love it. I love it. I love where the show is going. It's sad there's only 2 episodes left, but I am so excited. I also, this is a side note for the show, but how about the fact that we're going to get this and we have now dates for when Bad Batch Season 2 is coming.
Yeah.
Bad Batch Season 2, it will be airing partly at the same time as Andor. We're going to get 2 Star Wars shows at the same time. Then at the end, starting to 2023, we get Mando Season 3. We get Ahsoka. They have not been
very considerate of our podcasting schedule.
No, they have not.
We're going to be on here 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day? Or maybe they know this is what we need.
They're pushing us.
They are the Leia to us. All 3 of us are old Ben. We're all just, that's us. Ooh. Slicing our meat. Pocketing our meat for our EOPs.
Stealing from them, by the way.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome.
Well,
we will be here to report on every episode. Yeah. Wednesday nights, 8-ish, right?
8-ish.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys watching. It's been a blast. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, like the video. We're going to be putting this up, and it'll be up there for you to watch. You can catch us on other platforms, Instagram. Just search for us. I don't know what they are. Yeah. Star Wars Guys Pod.
Star Wars Guys Pod.
On Insta.
Yeah. We don't listen to our stuff, but you should.
We don't listen to it. We should.
We just live it.
I don't need to listen. I live it.
I lived it with a microphone.
Awesome. So Nate should be back with us next week. In the meantime, may the Force be with you.
You don't know the power of the podcast. The shameless plug. Follow, like, and subscribe.
Power of the podcast.
The Star Wars guys.
Never seen a more wretched hive of...
Never underestimate a Nate. No, they're better with Nate.